In Somalia, the situation is much worse. This country is staring at mass starvation. 200,000 people could die due to hunger. The country is facing its worst drought in 40 years. Some 7 million Somalis face acute levels of food insecurity. That's almost half of the country's population. The United Nations has sounded an alarm.
Somalia is on the brink of a devastating and widespread hunger and mass starvation that could claim hundreds of thousands of lives. Since the beginning of this year, the drought emergency in Somalia has worsened dramatically, and today we are looking at a looming disaster.
People are dying. Somalia's malnutrition treatment centers have witnessed over 400 deaths this year. The United Nations has more grim estimates. Their humanitarian coordinator for Somalia says thousands have died. In recent years, drought has become fairly common in Somalia. This region, the Horn of Africa, is facing its driest conditions in decades. Rains have failed for 4 consecutive seasons, and the reason, we are told, is global warming. In fact, global factors have made the drought in Somalia worse. First, it was the pandemic. It cut supply chains, so humanitarian aid could not reach Somalia. Then began the war in Ukraine. Food supplies were disrupted. Prices of essentials shot up. Cooking oil and wheat became expensive. In some places, they're selling at a premium of 100%. The war has hit Somalia hard. It depended heavily on Russian and Ukrainian imports. 92% of its wheat came from those two countries. The war has cut off the supply, and the result is this: millions are at risk of death due to starvation. The biggest casualty will be the children of Somalia. The country suffered a famine in 2011. In that year, more than 200,000 children died. 200,000 children. It could be worse this time. A dire prediction was made in April this year. It said 350,000 children could die in Somalia this year due to malnutrition. 55% of Somalia's children are believed to be malnourished. Over 380,000 of them desperately need life-saving treatment. These are not just numbers, these are human beings. The shortage of food is forcing people to leave their homes. About 800,000 people have been displaced so far. They're living in camps like this one. Many such camps have come up in and around the capital city of Mogadishu. Every victim has a story to tell. Some parents left their children behind because they could not feed everyone. Mothers have been forced to choose which child gets to live. One of them is Amina Adi Hassan. This is her story.
Some of my relatives have died because of the drought, and many others are on their way, and they are walking since they have no money for a ride. I have walked with my children and left some behind. I managed to save the ones I have now. As we walked on foot, we met a truck carrying charcoal coming from Kismau, which stopped to pick us up. We asked the truck driver to give us a ride since we had no money, and here we are. As you can see, we were helped by the camp staff upon our arrival. However, we are suffering from hunger as we do not have all the basic necessities.
These people are desperate. They came to these camps for food, but they're still starving. Health centers are flooded with patients of malnutrition, but there aren't enough medicines to treat them. And this is happening not just in Somalia. Kenya and Ethiopia too are facing famine-like conditions. 23 million people there are starving. According to one estimate, one person is dying from hunger every 48 seconds in Somalia, Ethiopia and Kenya, which means 60 deaths every hour. And over 1,400 deaths every day due to hunger. Why is the international community failing East Africa? The United Nations has appealed for aid. It wants $4.4 billion to feed these 3 countries. How much money has been raised? Just a little over $93 million. That's just 2% of the budget they need. And just for the sake of comparison, look at how the world responded to the war in Ukraine. Rich countries raised $16 billion to help Ukraine in 1 month. And this was non-military aid given by the United States and the European Union. Now, I'm not saying that Ukraine does not deserve this aid. I'm saying Somalia does too. But the world doesn't seem to care. These are not European children. They're East Africans. So there's no urgency, it seems, while lives are lost with every passing minute. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.